When you get home now, babe, won't you write me a few of your... Thanks for joining me again for a cool little gun talk today. This is going to be a pretty quick one because I've only got a few things to say about these, and I apologize if I sound strange. I've got a little bit of a cold, but I was promising you guys I was going to talk and compare a little bit of a cool vintage pocket gun compared to the LCP2, which has been very, very popular, especially here on my channel. So what I have got, as you can probably tell from the title of this, is the Bauer 25 ACP. Now, this is a cool little gun. I'll throw some pictures up here so you can see some close-ups of it. But it is a copy of the Browning, the baby Browning, which was created way back when, I don't know, maybe the teens. It's a really old design, and it was produced up into the 50s. And then Fraser Firearms, or Bauer Firearms, which later became Fraser, to the best of my understanding, started reproducing this little pocket pistol in the early 70s. And you can see how tiny this thing is. It makes the LCP look like a Glock 17. I mean, it is tiny, but it's not much different in weight. To be honest, this thing may even be a touch heavier than the LCP, but it's just a tiny little thing. And I picked one of these up off a gun broker, and to be honest with you, I'm so greedy that I actually picked up two. So the first one I got was actually this one right here, which is with the fake pearl grips. And it is, once I got it, I realized by looking at the serial numbers and checking some things out online, that it was a very early version. It was one of the first couple years of production with these. And it is a really, really high quality piece. The machining is absolutely just perfect. It's really cool just to look at, just to feel, just to see how well put together that gun is. I got it, and I was so impressed by it that I was like, man, I've got to get another one of these to take out and shoot, because I didn't want to just run a bunch of rounds through the first one I got, because it was obviously had some collectible value. So I looked around a little bit, and I found another one that was in really good shape. And this one is a later production model. So it's probably 4 or 5 years later. This one may be late 70s or early 80s. And it's not quite as tightly machined as the first one I got, but it's still really nice. Stainless steel, the whole construction is stainless steel, and the wood grips are a little bit smaller, so it's actually even easier to carry. I got a couple of cool holsters for these. I got this pocket holster from Bauer, and then you saw I've got this inside the waistband or outside the waistband holster that I got, and I can't remember. I was trying to think who made this. I got this off of Amazon, I think, or eBay actually. I try not to shop at Amazon, but it works pretty good. It was for a variety of guns. It wasn't for the baby Browning or the Bauer specifically. But the 25 ACP round is not much different than the 22 long rifle. See if it'll focus in on those guys. Now, there's a bunch of reports. I mean, we could go on and on and on for a million years about the viability of carrying either one of these calibered firearms, 22 or 25. And there's a lot of people that tell you a 25 is basically useless. And it's a low power round. It's a 50 grain bullet moving at about 750 to 800 feet per second. So it's not putting out a lot of energy. But the lethality of these things is well known, and they're highly penetrative, I think is the word I'm looking for, penetrative. they penetrate really well. So, you know, use your best judgment. I think you get more energy out of a 22, especially like a 40 grain, the Aguila 40 grain round nose, this is the 38 grain hollow point. But if you know anything about 22 ballistics, you know they don't generally expand that much. And so you're really going for penetration with those as well. But they're moving at a much higher rate, 1,100, 1,200 feet per second, even out of something like the LCP2. Out of a rifle, you get them up to 1,500, 1,600 feet per second. So I don't want to get into a big discussion about the viability of the 25 ACP, but it is a more reliable round because it's a centerfire cartridge. And I've had zero issues with rounds not going off with either one of these little pistols. And these are the only 25s I've got. But I did have some major issues with this second one I picked up, and I'll throw a picture up here of the destruction that was put onto the captive slide spring here. You can see how that didn't quite make it out of the first shooting session. I got about 10 rounds through it, and then it shot the spring post straight through the front of the pistol. Won't you ride me through your lines? This is gonna be a consolation just to ease my worried mind. But it was a relatively easy fix. I went online, I found a supplier for new old stock gun parts, and I picked up a new side spring for a new old side spring for about $30 and put it in. And it took a little minute, even after that. Like, this gun had some issues, whereas the other one, every round that I shot through the first one I got, the earlier model, was dead on it. It functioned perfect, it cycled perfect, there was no hiccups. This one was having a lot of problems. So what I ended up doing was taking it, stripping it all the way down. And I mean all the way down. I took almost every part out of this, all the springs of the trigger, took the trigger out, took everything, and polished the crap out of all of the parts, and really got the extractor smoothed up and lubed up, and got the feed ramps, which are on the barrel and on the frame, super polished up, and then put everything back together. And lo and behold, I ran 60 rounds through this thing today, which is not cheap. That's about $40 worth of ammo. And it performed very, very, very well. It had one little mishap right at the end, but I think it was because it was dirty. And this gun does get really dirty really quickly. So I think it was because it was getting a little gummed up, but it had about, honestly, it had about 50, I think it was 56. It was 55 or 56 rounds, just ran very, very smoothly. It has a 6-round clip, or magazine for you authoritarian lunatics. 6 rounds, so it's 6 plus 1. It does have sights on it, and so you can like line those sights up, but man, it's so tiny that honestly I was just shooting it from the hip. I was using my shot timer and shooting it from the hip, and I'm not as fast with follow-up rounds as I am with the LCP2 because it's got a better trigger, no doubt about it. But man, you can really put this thing on target out to 10 yards without aiming at all. I mean, it does not require you to really get a sight picture at all. You can just bring it up and just snap them off, and it's really proficient at that. And I think we all know that something like this is designed and really only good for, you know, maybe out to 5, 6, 7 yards at the most, but it was performing really well today out at even farther distances. So if you got a chance to pick one of these up, I mean, obviously the LCP2 is you know, it's brand new. It's new technology. There's a lot of very positive things about this. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I've got over 10,000 rounds through this gun, and it's been pretty damn solid. But it is a rimfire cartridge, so you never really know what you're going to get with the cartridge. Whereas the 25 ACP, you know, it may not be quite as powerful as some modern 22 long rifle rounds, but it's a centerfire cartridge, and this is a tiny little gun. I mean, you can literally hide it in your hand. Um, it's a pretty amazing piece of machinery. It's kind of like a Swiss watch or something. It's just a really neat little pistol, and I'm not going to use this as my everyday carry, so you know, let's not act like I've lost my mind. But at the same time, if you need something as a backup, or you just have, you know, really need to have something super concealable, one of these little baby Brownings, these, you know, guys from Bauer Firearms, or what was later called Fraser Arms, I think. Uh, I'm really happy to have this, and it will probably just hang around in my gun room for a good long while, and it'll be a piece to talk about. But I honestly think it will get the job done if you needed it to. It really would. And like I said, the earlier one is even tighter and has performed better than this one did at first. But either one of them, really cool vintage pieces of self-defense machinery. So that's all I got to say today. I'll be back soon with some more videos. I got some cool stuff. I got some really neat guns in this week that I'm going to talk about. It may be a little uncharacteristic for this channel, but I picked up an AK-47. It was my first AK, and I've got a lot of things to say about that, so stay tuned for that. I've got a Springfield Hellcat review coming up, and we will talk about all the other things. I've put a bunch more rounds through my Taurus GX4, so I've got some things to say about that, and maybe even some more cool things in the pipeline. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys out at the range. See my little girls over